Hi, I'm Glenn Anderson with the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation. This TV series explores a variety of issues that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolent social change. Some of our programs examine other countries in terms of the United States government's foreign policy, but this month we're exploring our local community's long-term people-to-people relationship with the community in Nicaragua. Nicaragua is in the middle of Central America. It's southeast of Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras, but north of Panama and Costa Rica. Since 1988, our local community has enjoyed a strong sister community relationship with Santo Tomás, Nicaragua. The Thurston Santo Tomás Sister County Association, TSTSCA, has built peace and justice across thousands of miles of distance by interacting face-to-face with back-and-forth delegations and also by collaborating on practical projects in Santo Tomás, Nicaragua. In March 1987, the second episode of this Olympia FOR TV series featured Jean Eberhardt, who had just returned from Santo Tomás from the Seattle to Nicaragua Construction Brigade. And she was looking at whether it might be possible to organize an Olympia to Nicaragua Construction Brigade. That succeeded, and the relationship grew and blossomed into TSTSCA, a nonprofit organization that was created in the next year and incorporated in 1989. The Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation's TV series has included people from this group from time to time, and now once again we are devoting a full hour to this exciting and really powerful project. In 2011, a delegation of 6 students from the Evergreen State College spent 10 weeks of spring quarter in Santo Tomás conducting hands-on activities. And in July of 2011, 9 other Olympia community members spent 2 weeks there. TSTSCA will decide soon what its future plans will be, perhaps including a delegation from the south to the north, or more people heading from here to there in the next year or two. So I'm happy to welcome 4 guests who have firsthand experience there. Maureen Hill has volunteered with the Thurston Santo Tomás Sister County Association from the very beginning, and she also was part of the July 2011 community delegation. Moira Rader Rice was also a member of the July 2011 community delegation. And Ellie Mansfield and Alex Becker were members of the spring quarter 2011 delegation of students from the Evergreen State College. It's good to have you all here. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about something that we all care about. Ellie, I wonder if you could give a little bit of background of Nicaragua's history, just to sort of bring us up to date from, say, the Somoza dictatorship to the present.
Well, the Somoza dictatorship was for about 40 years, and in 1980, the FSLN, which is the Sandinista government, took power, and that was by democratic election by the people. And they were looking forward to having a different kind of government. Mm-hmm. And so that the Sandinista government was in power for about 10 years, and yeah.
Tell us about the efforts of the Reagan administration and the CIA to roll back the Sandinista revolution.
Well, when the Sandinistas came into power in 1980, that's when the United States started backing the Contra War, which was basically against the Sandinista government in order to make it not work. Right. And the Contra War, was really detrimental to a lot of the programs that the Sandinista government tried to set up. Lots of people disappeared, people were murdered, and it was a very difficult time for the people of Nicaragua.
The CIA had actually created the Contras, Contra meaning against, they were like against the new progress, and they actually function as terrorists.
Right, and so they used mercenary tactics and, would go into towns and, destroy whole villages, kill people, tear down schools, that kind of thing. It was, pretty devastating.
So it was in that context that your effort came along. Can you tell us about the beginnings of this group?
Right, well, there were two groups that went down to Nicaragua. the Olympia Construction Brigade went down to Santo Tomás in around 1987, and they worked on a sewing cooperative there. And then
on the building of
on
it.
the building of the
Yeah.
sewing cooperative, right? And then in 1988, a delegation, we call ourselves a study tour of community members, mostly from Olympia, from the First United Methodist Church, organized it. Went down. We didn't go to Santo Tomás, but we went to other areas of Nicaragua, met with government officials, with co-ops, went to farms. We were going to pick coffee at one point up in the sort of in the Matagalpa area, but there was some contra activity there, and so we had to cancel our plan. So while we were there in the late 80s, there was actually contra activity. And so,
Activity meaning violence.
yeah, they were attacking clinics
Yeah.
and projects that were assisting the people.
Yeah. And we should let people know, and we'll mention again later in the program, if you want to contact the organization, we use 360-943-8642 or TSTSCA@gmail.com, and the website would be www.oly-wa.us/TSTSCA.
Right.
And we'll repeat this during the
Right.
program.
Well, from those two groups that came back, they met for about a year, trying to figure out what sort of positive things we could do as a community, besides, writing our congresspersons and telling them we didn't think what our government was doing was correct. And basically, the community decided we wanted to link up with a community on a people-to-people relationship in Nicaragua. And because the construction brigade already had a relationship established in the Santo Tomás area, we elected, and with a give and take with their community being interested in such a relationship, that's how Santo Tomás was selected, as opposed to any of the communities that the tour group had gone to, because we were just really doing a survey of the area. We didn't have a relationship with the community, and so that's how Santo Tomás got selected in the end.
One of the neat things about how the group has been functioning is because it's people to people, you've got a counterpart of the Committee for Community Development, the CDC, that you interact with. Tell us about how that relationship works.
Well, we decide as a committee here, as an organization here, we are incorporated as a not-for-profit 501c3. We linked with the community development organization down there. Its current iteration is the Committee for Community Development down there at this point, and we relate to them as organization to organization, people to people. We're not limited in our interactions to just members of the CDC, but in terms of our projects, we've, at this point in time, have elected to deal with projects that are coming through a vote of their membership, a prioritization of their membership, et cetera. So that it's organization to organization, but people to people as well.
Yeah, it's very grassrootsy as opposed to a
definitely.
governmental top-down
Correct.
thing, and I think that's really a powerful strength. It keeps it authentic. I want to check in with you, Moira. You told me when we were preparing for the program that you had learned about this really initially when you were attending Lincoln Elementary School, kindergarten to age 2, and Lincoln School has a relationship with a school there. Tell us about that.
Some of the classes have buddy students with other classes and kids.
In Nicaragua.
At the Ruben Dario.
With Ruben Dario in
Yeah.
Nicaragua. And they would send letters down and sometimes pictures. And
Were you in the school when one of the teachers from Santo Tomás came up and spent some time at Ruben Dario?
Yeah.
So you got to know about Santo Tomás that way too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I had sent a letter and a picture of myself. And when I went up to Santo Tomás, my buddy student recognized me. And it took like 15 minutes trying to figure out what she was saying. She was saying like, I have a picture of you.
Yeah, that is so cool. So you had a chance to actually
Yeah.
follow through in person with a connection that you had already made with letters and photo. And you said that you were a Facebook friend with Grace Cobb?
Oh, no. My mom was.
Mom was. Your mom was.
Yeah.
And so tell us how that connection worked out.
I don't know.
Well, so
Well,
I mean,
my mom said that she was Facebook friends with Grace.
yeah, and Grace is active in the
And
TSTSCA.
is that how she found out about the delegation going
Right.
down?
And so
Yeah.
you and your mom both went down this past July.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like all this kind of networking and connections and things kind of bubble out. Thank you. Let's talk for a bit with the two Evergreen students. We had spring quarter of 2011. There were a delegation of what, six
student
students
delegates,
from
yeah.
Evergreen went down for the whole academic quarter for academic credit and did a lot of activities. Would you give us just a brief overview of that, and then we'll look at some of the specific things you did, and we'll have some photographs then of illustrating what you're talking about. Give us just an overview of the spring delegation.
I can go. Yeah, sure. I mean, there was six of us, and we were all placed at different organizations where we could volunteer. We also had the opportunity to take Spanish classes while we were there. There was kind of a mix of beginning and intermediate Spanish students among us, and we'd all studied, varying things at Evergreen. But it was kind of an opportunity for us to go down, share the skills that we did have, and participate in the Sister City project as well. So I was working at a farm there. Ellie was working at the Comedor Infantil, which is a children's free lunch program, and she'll speak to that. And then a number of the other students were working at clinics at the elementary school at Ruben Darillo, where Moira first made the connection with Santo Tomás. So it was an opportunity to go and volunteer and become part of the Sister City project that had been built for so many years.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Let's start with Ellie talking about the Comedor, which is like lunchroom.
Yeah, so it's
like
a
children's
free
lunchroom.
lunch program that that's provided through the CDC and with the Sisterhood of Olympia. And
We have a photo with you and a bunch of little kids there, all
that was
looking
the
cute
first
and
day when we
enthusiastic.
came, and they were really excited to meet us and wanted to have their pictures taken. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so keep talking us through the
So
experience.
basically, we, at the Children's Free Lunch Program is set up for kids who are low income, whose families don't have money to provide meals for them, and I think it's a really great service for the community. That there's a lot of women who have worked there for 5 or 10 years, and they're able to be role models for these children and really spend time with them. And and it was great to be a volunteer there and have the opportunity to get to know some of the kids and some of the women who work there.
Yeah, and you said, you told me before the program about how for some of these kids being so poor, it's nice to have some stability with these ongoing.
Absolutely. I think that the women and men who work there are very much role models for these children. And, it isn't just about getting a free meal, just because you're hungry. It's also about, having people that are, really influential in your life and will listen to you as a child,
And so they're cooking here?
Yeah, that's they have a fire pit and put it right on there. And that's just the kitchen area, and that's Myrna on the left and Wilma on the right, and it's just every day they cook and they start really early, and lunch is served from around 10:30 until around 1:30 or so, depending on the kids' school schedule.
And
So.
you told me there's another preschool that's related to the Comedor?
Yeah, within kind of the same building, there's a preschool program that's offered to children that need it. So as far as I know, it's a free program, and it's available for kids of any income level.
And our organization locally subsidizes some of that work.
We subsidize 3 of the workers in the overall Commodore program. There's also a library attached to the Commodore, and they have books and a space where students can go, quiet space with desks, tables, and they can use the books and have a place to do their homework. And the Olympia, our program, has committed to assisting the Commodore and the library. At this point, we don't have any financial support for the preschool, but
And there's an organization in Belgium that has a strong relationship as well.
the Santo Tomás is fortunate to have a pretty strong relationship also with Mall Belgium, and actually they can get more financial support from them, but they don't seem to have as much. They do have delegations come in, huge delegations, and come for short periods of time, and I can't speak to the intensity of their personal relationships because I really don't know firsthand.
Well, I know the one here is so warm and
Well, this one is
consistent.
definitely a
This is
personal
great.
relationship
It helps
for
to have
many
folks
years,
like
yeah.
you and Jean Eberhardt and Grace Cox and others who've been at it for so long. Alex, you worked with the Huerta, the farm.
Yeah,
Tell us the background of what that is, that they sort of changed their function, and tell us about that and what you did.
Sure. Well, it was really a fascinating experience. It was an organic farm. There was also a part of it was also a ranch. Actually, I believe Olympia had financed purchase of a few of the cows that were there as well. But it had started for a while. It was actually really of interest to me, having volunteered in a few organic farms locally in Olympia. And I think it's of interest to people in Olympia too. Kind of interested in sustainable practices, because they had a number of different projects at the farm. One, they grew a lot of the food that was then supplied to the Commodore for the children's free lunch program. So I can speak to this image. This was me. One of the other projects was a water filtration system for the community. So here you can see me. I'm working in what's actually a natural filtration process that they've set up with bacteria-eating plants to rid very contaminated water, contaminated with heavy contaminants, with metals. It's not, upon completion, it's not potable, but it's able to be used at a public laundry facility. So the lavanderia is the public laundry, and really a lot of members of the community depend on the lavanderia for basic access to water. A lot of people, especially living on the outskirts of town, don't have access to water. If it comes at all, it might come every 2 weeks, it might come every month. So this was a really concrete way that I was able to help in doing manual labor to help in their filtration process. So here you see a picture of women washing clothes at the lavanderia. My own family, who I stayed with, my host family, used this facility on the weekends, and then people were there daily. So I would see them there. That's one of the projects that the huerto, that the farm operated. So it was that. It was the growing food for the Commodore. They grew cacao, bananas, a number of different vegetables, beans that were brought to the kids. And then they also produced milk there as well.
And other projects, other things that you folks worked on as students, either yourself or others?
Sure. There was also another student volunteer who has an interest and has kind of previous study in the health sciences, and went there with some previous experience, with some prior knowledge, and was able to volunteer at the clinic there. So there was 2 clinics. There was a public clinic. There was also one that was operated by the CDC, and she had the opportunity to work at both clinics and provide really direct care to patients there. There's also the elementary school, like Moira mentioned, Ruben Dario, which is the sister elementary school to Lincoln here in Olympia. And what am I forgetting? There's the preschool, there's the library.
There's a couple of preschools that the CDC and Olympia work with and support.
And you mentioned when we were on the phone to prepare for the content here of this, you mentioned there's some people who had moved from Santo Tomás to Costa Rica, and you mentioned, tell us something about those
Sure.
migration patterns and
Sure.
by nationality.
Well, I remember in our conversation that was one other element to the student delegation, which I should mention and failed to previously was that there was an academic component to our delegation. So in addition to volunteering, in addition to taking Spanish classes and living with host families, participating in the sister city relationship, we also had the opportunity to work on different academic projects while we were there. So each student kind of took up a different project of interest. I'd been studying mostly political science and political economy at Evergreen. So I was really fascinated speaking with a lot of people there about their experiences of kind of family experiences of migration. A lot of people in Santo Tomás have family that have migrated to Costa Rica either seasonally or permanently or semi-permanently for some kind of work. So whether that's working in fields or working in free trade areas, which are also in Nicaragua, or working permanently and sending remittances, sending money home to family. One close friend there, excuse me, who we got to know pretty well. He's 21 now. His mom has lived in Costa Rica since he was 13, and he sees her maybe once a year or something. So it's interesting, not something that I had really prior knowledge of, maybe more familiar with kind of immigration, Latin American immigration to the United States, but less so to Costa Rica. And a lot of people took that, kind of made that choice as a livelihood strategy rather than, trying to make the dangerous trip to the U.S., which would...
The way the immigration issues get portrayed in the United States by the media and politicians and stuff is like those people are picking on us by coming here, and what you've told us shows there's a larger issue of people needing to move around from place to place, and you get this in parts of the world where the climate has changed, or there's deforestation, or various kinds of things. So there's this whole issue of people needing to migrate, needing to move for a variety of reasons, and we need to understand that in a level-headed way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely with the people we spoke with, the primary motivation was economic. So that was something that was pretty clear, and that you learned from speaking with people who have migrated to the U.S. too.
So this was you got academic credit, and you did actually academic work, and you had an application process and faculty advisors and so forth. And is there anything else you need to say about the academic aspect of this?
Just that, there were 6 student delegates, and we really had to go through kind of a rigorous process to be selected to go, and we were all pretty committed to what we were doing, and I think of all my experiences and travels in Latin America before, I think this was one of the strongest connections with people that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, it's certainly not just being a tourist. It's like
no,
really
not at
being
all.
in the midst of it.
You're living with a family and spending time with them and eating meals with them, and then you're also going to classes and volunteering and taking Spanish classes and improving your language. So
And I think too, just to add, in addition to what Ellie mentioned, what really separates this student delegation from other study abroad type programs, which themselves are also a great opportunity as well. What really separates this delegation has been over several years that it's been part of this sister city relationship between Olympia and Santo Tomás. So as Evergreen students, it was an honor to participate in that connection because the relationship isn't necessarily between Santo Tomás and Evergreen. It really is between Santo Tomás and Olympia as the broader community. So it was really nice to participate and step into something that had been so long established.
Yeah. Other brief experiences or impressions? I know you have a story about, well, a couple of stories actually, about the warmth of the people and how they helped you out.
Actually, there was a time towards the end of my trip, I had stayed a little bit longer after our quarter was over and spring quarter was done, and I was staying on, and my debit card, I had a problem with it, and so I didn't have any money at all, and I didn't have anything, and I was in Nicaragua without even $1, and I just had such warmth from the people that I got to know and my Nicaraguan family, and everyone just welcomed me into their home and fed me meals and would give me money so I could buy whatever I needed, and that was just such a blessing and a gift that their hearts were so warm that even though my friends and family there didn't have a lot of money, like they would share what they had with me. So
tell us just briefly about that celebration they had for the Sandinista
So
revolution.
the day that that Santo Tomás itself was liberated from the Contra War, and the Contras had kind of taken over that area. There was a parade that started at 4 in the morning or something, and we walked through the town, and people were holding Sandinista flags, and there was a band, and we're just walking around, waking everyone up. At 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So
is this photo a part of that?
yeah, this is the band, and
that was after daylight.
There was probably 50 to 100 people, and people would kind of join us as we kept on, and the mayor was there, Nelly Serrano, who was actually my host mom, and we just walked through the town, and we were able to I don't know, it was just an interesting recognition of remembering that day in July, that that your town was freed from the Contras, and then I was told that the next day after that they went to the next town, and everyone from Santo Tomás went and helped free that town and push the Contras out. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to both of you for all these stories and insights. I want to check in with Moira and Maureen about the community delegation, because after spring quarter ended, then in July, you folks and some others came down from Olympia and had a variety of experience. I want to check with those. Can you give us just a little overview, and then we'll get into the details?
Well, we've tried to do community delegations every other year, every third year or so. And this year, I think it was a little bit different in terms of the past delegations. And I think they really, Grace and Jean, tried
Grace
to create,
Cox and Jean Eberhard.
Tried to create a different kind of delegation that would perhaps tailored more to people like me who don't have good Spanish language skills. In fact, I had pretty much zilch Spanish language skills. So it was a delegation that was offering more interpretive services than past delegations. In the past, we've really asked community delegates to have some language, because it's exhausting for leaders of the group to be constantly interpreting, and then they really lose all the benefits of being in Santo Tomás if they're catering to the community. Moira's mom, fortunately, Kim had some language skills, and we had a 17-year-old with his parents, and he actually served as an assistance to them. But Grace and Jean did a lot of interpretation at public events and what have you. So there were 9 of us, including Jean Eberhard and Grace Cox, and so there was Moira and her mom, right? And then Cliff and Jane and Alan Mountjoy Venning
And
Whitney.
Whitney.
19-year-old, and it was fun to share her experience, because she had been down there when she was 10 years ago, previously, with her mom on a community delegation. So she wanted to go back, because she had, in fact, established some pretty tight relationships with those folks, and she was anxious to see them again. And so she united with family, and it was pretty amazing to see the reception and that they received. And just to mention, in terms of these delegations, whether they be North or South, or the student delegations, the organization puts serious planning and preparation into any of these delegations, with the knowledge that we're representing our community down there, because they go to such extremes to make people welcome. They have welcoming parties, and they have going away parties, and they really just want to make you comfortable and be a part of their community. So we're trained in, just cultural differences and, those kinds of things, so that we're prepared for we'll never prepared for everything, but
Right.
but at least be prepared, sort of what you expect. So we went through a whole day. We went through a whole day of training. The students went through a couple of days of training to prepare them for what they might expect.
Yeah.
And so,
We'll talk some more in a few minutes about some more of the preparations, because these were pretty special. I want to find out some more about your experiences with the Ruben Dario School down there. You had some experiences when you arrived, and some things you did with the kids. Tell us about some of these.
Yeah, when I walked in through the gates of Ruben Dario, all of the kids there, like, swarmed me.
Uh-huh.
And they kept asking me all these questions in Spanish, and I had no idea what was going on.
Well, you have some Spanish skills, but your Spanish improved during the delegation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, some of the kids like wanted to play soccer, and they were like, "You want to play soccer? Want to play soccer? Want to play soccer?" After I've told them over and over again, yes, and we got to play soccer, and then we played hide and go seek tag, and it was fun. But then there was this like game where all these kids would make a circle, and one person would be in the middle, and the kids outside would like chant this song, and the person in the middle would dance or something. And when the song was done, they would sit down, and the last person down was in the middle.
Okay, so the game would continue with the new person in there. Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but
Okay. Well, it's the kind of thing you could imagine happening anywhere. It's like, what, people in some other country play games like we do here? That's really cool.
And really quick can I add something really quick?
Yes.
We also had that, as students, it was really exciting because one of the things I didn't mention, we brought down, suitcases full of material aid. So various for the clinic, for the school, for a number of different things. A lot of that material aid was stuff that was donated by people at Lincoln, by students and parents at Lincoln Elementary. And then we had the, kind of the excitement of being able to bring the suitcases down there, full of letters, and all the kids were like so excited to receive that contact from their pen pals. So the same way that you got to make that connection with them, they got to make that connection with you. So it's nice to hear that you were welcomed the same way.
Yeah. There's a story about ice cream. I wonder if you can tell us.
the ice cream.
Yeah, but taking kids out?
When the adults were talking boring talk in the library next to the corridor, I went over in the corridor because there was always kids there. And these kids were making beads, necklaces, whatever, to sell and get more beads. And they gave me this free bracelet, and in return, I took them all out to ice cream.
Cool. And then,
And there's the picture.
yes, there we are. There's a picture. And tell us about the dress. Where was that made, and what's that about?
I met this friend at the welcoming party who danced the traditional dance there. And I thought it was pretty, so when we went to the sewing co-op down there, I got this dress made.
Oh, so that was special made for you then?
Yeah.
And that was at the sewing cooperative that you mentioned that
That
we had helped to build.
That the Olympia Construction Brigade had
Yeah.
participated in the construction. So it was nice to see that 20 years later it was still going.
So, yeah, and all
It
these
has some-
interconnections and cycles of things. So, and you get a dress made for yourself. That's pretty cool. What are there other things that you might want to
Well,
mention about
I
the
would
community
like
delegation?
Moira to mention the project that she created herself at
Yes.
between Lincoln and.
When I heard that I was going to go to Santo Tomás, I had this idea that since some of the classes from Lincoln and Ruben Dario were buddies, that I would take the pictures of the Lincoln kids in this one class and bring them to their buddies in their buddy class and take the pictures of the buddy class and bring them back to them. So I took the pictures of the Lincoln kids and took the pictures of the Ribbon-Dario kids, but I haven't given the pictures back to Lincoln.
Okay, so you've completed part of it, you just need to
Yeah.
complete that cycle
Yeah.
back with those
Make a
photos
presentation
back.
at Lincoln.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll do a thing to a class there or something?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was all my idea.
All right, that's cool. Well, that's what happens, is people generate ideas, and then they organize and make the good stuff happen, so, great. Tell us a bit more about the material aid. We've had, Alex mentioned the sports equipment, but tell
Yeah.
us more about the stuff
Well,
that we
that's
sent
one of the
down.
things, sort of like, if you want to go to Santo Tomás, you have to be willing to go with carrying a 50-pound suitcase full of material aid supplies. That's sort of a serious request that is made of us. And so what we do is we send communication down to our sister community and to sister projects and say, okay, are there things that you need, because we'll try our best to fill up suitcases. And so each of the delegates was responsible for a 50-pound suitcase, and we collected supplies, or we collected money and bought supplies and filled suitcases, put them on and weighed them and made sure that they were 50 pounds and wind up at the airport and one is 52 pounds and the moving supplies around so we don't have to pay the extra charge. But yeah, we're
And the idea
on the
is
scale.
that some things they can get down there at a reasonable price, other things they really can't get
yeah, and
at a
we're
reasonable price.
learning more and more, not to take paper. It's so heavy, and they can get it down there. So we're learning more and more as more opportunities actually occur in Managua for getting supplies. It's less important to pack everything into the suitcase, but really to get the stuff that's not readily available down there or not
Right.
cost effective to bring down
We
there.
had, before the delegation went down, there's a packing party at your house.
Oh, yeah.
And you were there, I was there, a bunch of people, a whole gang of people were there. And I was impressed. They would take something and cut off the packaging so it's just the thing itself and not all that darn packaging that we get. And so
Well, just to
it's packed.
get 50 pounds in the
Yeah,
suitcase
yeah,
efficiently,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, save the space and save the weight and stuff. And it was impressive that you had medical supplies, you had stuff for the schools, you had games, you had billiard balls, they had all kinds of stuff.
Well,
It was
things that they
amazing.
had, we tried to focus on the things that they
Yeah,
had requested
yeah.
where they were affordable.
Right, and I saw the list. There's some things that were, equipment that must not have been readily available there, but that somebody could
Right,
get here and bring
right,
down. But it was a pretty impressive thing, but just the efficiency of
Well, we've done it a few times.
I know.
We've done it a few times.
I know.
Trying to.
But you folks have done have such an efficient system for doing this, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but you make it happen, and it makes a big difference.
It really does, and I think one thing that I just want to add to that's really reflective of the organization's kind of approach to this kind of work in general is that the material items that we provide are really based on their requests, as Maureen mentioned,
Yes.
on their needs. Because it's a relationship that's been built through solidarity and through friendship, we're not determining what their needs are, but they're able to provide us with lists with things that we may have easier access to. Then we can either procure donations or purchase them or whatever it might be to provide them. So I think that's pretty special too about this this project specifically.
Yeah. Are there other things that you want to say about the community delegation that we haven't talked about? Other activities you did, or?
Well, the community delegation, I mean, we were busy all the time, and we were with our host families to visit and have meals, but we visited preschools,
Yeah, multiple preschools.
right?
We painted the.
We painted twice out at the
I,
farm. We
I didn't paint twice.
You painted once, so you had fun the other time, or you went to an event, right?
Yes.
The other time. Where did you go that time?
My host mom was, her grandfather had died, and I guess there's this thing called Nueve Dias or something, and it's 9 days after somebody dies. There's this big party.
They have a like a
Yeah.
commemoration. The
Yeah.
family gets together. So you did that while we painted the
And-
second time, right?
Yes, she promised me there would be lots of kids.
And there were, right?
Yes.
So we did. We went out actually to what they call a comarca, which is like a community on the outskirts of Santo Tomás, and there was a community center there that the folks wanted painted, and so we went there and painted, and the community came together. It was almost like the story of stone soup. You know, somebody brings, puts the stone in, and then everybody brings the vegetables.
Yeah.
Well, this time it wasn't stones. It was one of the leaders had butchered some chickens, and he had the chicken, and the community brought all the root vegetables and made us this wonderful chicken soup in a huge cauldron.
Wow.
So we had we actually completed the painting, and some of our community members got to. He brought his horse, and people were able to take rides on his horse, and so it was, you know, we in each of our projects we weren't just doing it by ourselves. We were doing with either the community or with members of the CDC.
Right.
So, and it was things that they had requested.
Yeah.
And when I said that it takes a lot of coordination to have one of these delegations successful, it's not only preparing us at this end, it's trying to prepare us at that end so that we'll have a successful experience and that we'll be doing things that'll be helpful instead of such a drain, just being a drain.
Right. My understanding, I guess you had told me that Sean, who's involved with TSTSCA, was down there and was able to
Yeah,
help with
one of our, you know, we love the student delegations. They just, you know, they're just amazing people, and we have student delegates who have been with the organization now since they went down as delegates, and Sean is one of them. He went down on a delegation in around 2001, and then when 2 separate summers he went back down to visit, and now he's living there off and on, and so he was our on-the-ground support before Jean and Grace arrived to do a whole bunch of things about helping match host families. He did actually some support for the students as well, so he was both a support person for the students and for the community delegation. Finding host families, arranging transportation is a huge, because Santo Tomás is outside of the main Managua, and translating, yep, he did a lot of interpreting for us, and arranging these meetings so we could get information on the various projects and then do some community service while we were there. So we were busy.
Well, and that's the value of having the ongoing organization, because he had been through activities before, and so you have that relationship, and if he's living there sometimes, then he's got the connections there. So
yeah, he had to find like the transportation to get from Managua to Santo Tomás and return, picking us up at the airport, arranging accommodations in Managua, finding safe restaurants to eat, etc. So it's the logistics are pretty intense.
I want to check in to see if there's some other things you mentioned to me when we were preparing for the phone, that in terms of the receptivity of people, the welcoming, that people were recognizing Jean and Grace on the street and just calling them by name. Hi, you know.
Right. Oh yeah, it was amazing because I mean, just walk down the street and Jean would recognize people. People would recognize Jean, right? But after a while, people were recognizing Moira too. So
By the end of the trip, I got almost as many friends as Jean.
Well, if you go back, you'll continue that on. You know, daily life down there. It's a small city, but in a rural kind of area with the outside. And you told me on the phone, preparing for the program, most streets are not paved, and it's just a big difference from.
Yeah, one of the goals of the city government is to, you know, take a street at a time and, you know, pave it. And, you know, we saw some activity being done. I have nothing to compare it to except that those streets probably years ago weren't paved. They have pavers. They're not like blacktopped like we do. But your basic functioning of daily living is much more time-consuming there. I mean, you don't have running water necessarily. You don't have indoor facilities. You don't have a lot of refrigeration, so you're making frequent trips to the store. You're walking a lot. I mean, you know, it's like living in a city. You walk a whole lot more than you do, you know, jumping in your car.
Yes.
So you're walking a lot more. You know, so I think that the activities of daily living there are time consuming. You don't typically have a lot of leisure time. People, if they do work in town, they might come home for lunch, as was the case with my host family. My host family, by the way, was totally Spanish speakers, and I'm not a Spanish speaker. So we had a lot of laughs in our communication. And he, the husband in the family, I actually was in a 4-generation family. I had a mom and a dad, children and nieces and nephews, and then a grandniece, and then there was essentially a great grandma for the little girl in my family. It was, you know, and Modesto was part of the 2002 delegation here, and stayed at our home part of the time that he was here. So they sort of linked me with him because we had that relationship. And my husband is deceased recently, but Modesto and he had a connection. They didn't speak the same language, but they had this mutual love of baseball. And so I guess the baseball, certainly the baseball statistics translate to all languages. And so I was fortunate in that I met a young Nicaraguan player at a baseball game here and was able to get his autograph and brought it to Modesto. He was so excited. He hung the poster in his office, and he was so excited because this Nicaraguan player was 18 and he had been signed for $1 million to the
local boy makes good.
So it was very exciting because for him it was real important.
Once in a while we do delegations from there to the north, and tell us how that works and what kinds of things happen.
Well, we try to be reciprocal. They certainly provide an intense amount of hospitality when we go down there, and so we're trying to be reciprocal so that we have some hospitality from them. When we go down as delegates, we pay our way. In fact, we pay a little bit of extra so that there's some money toward projects down there. But there isn't it wouldn't be possible for our folks down there, the members down there, to come up here on their own dime. So we need to raise funds to bring them here. But when we do, we try to have a conversation with the Community Development Corporation down there to see who might benefit from the experience, either learning some stuff that they would like to bring back, or who would be beneficial to us in terms of communicating to our community about Santo Tomás.
I remember one time, some years ago, the delegation from here to here was largely artists, people who had something in the arts. And so that was a fun twist on things.
Right.
And
I think
I don't remember what year that was.
Well, there were wood carvers amongst them, and actually Modesto was part of that at that time. He's doing some different work now, but he had amazing work in his house that he had done.
We should also mention the scholarship program. Can you tell us about that?
Well, when the last delegation was here in 2008, they were talking about the need for assistance to students going to college. Although it's not expensive to go to college there, the cost of books and transportation and eating, if they're out of their home area, if they go into into Huigalpa or to Managua. So we said to them, okay, come up with a proposal, which is our typical way of saying, send something through the CDC in a proposal. And so we thought that would be something that we could do, and they came up with a really well thought out proposal. And we now, we have a picture of eight college students that we're supporting. It's actually 9. One of them wasn't there the night of the
Oh, and
the
there's
welcoming.
and
There's
there's
the
the
8
photo.
of them. Yeah, they
Yeah.
all came to our welcoming
That's
party
great.
except one. So we're currently helping 9 students with their college
Yeah,
expenses.
That's really cool. Possible future plans? What would you like to do personally, yourself, or for the organization? Pretty briefly, we've got a few
Yeah.
questions and we'll wrap this thing up, but I want to look ahead to the future.
Well, right now I am co-president of the TSTSCA, and
Yay.
I'm hoping to continue to be involved in that, and just continue to support this organization. We are hoping to have a delegation come north this spring, and that's something that we really need a lot of community support for. So, we're just hoping that that we can make that happen, so people can come from Nicaragua to here.
Other future visions?
I think one thing for me is, I'm no longer a permanent Olympia resident. I'm living in Seattle and back and forth quite a bit. And there are a number of other people like myself who have been involved in the student delegation and continue to stay involved in some way or another, even if they're not locally in Olympia. One thing that I've maintained since I've been back to the U.S. Since June is really maintaining contact with my family, with the host family that I stayed with, and with friends that I made down there. There are some small internet cafes down there, so people do have some internet access, which just a few years ago was not possible. So it's a little bit easier to stay in touch. So maintaining those personal relationships is important, and I definitely plan to continue my involvement in the Sister City project too.
Good. I just want to make sure the viewers understand this special thing, and I think they probably got a pretty good idea of it by now, about how warm, how personal, how mutually respectful it is, as opposed to like top-down government or paternalistic or something. It's the kind of human-to-human stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's what I found really interesting about the TSTSCA, is that this sisterhood relationship has been going on for almost 25 years, and the personal relationships are really special and important in that.
So, how do we accomplish so much? I know there's a small steering committee that meets monthly, and tell us a bit more.
Well, we meet monthly on the third Monday. We have a small core group that basically meets and plans activities, but we have a broader base of support in the community. All the funds that we have to do projects come from the community, through fundraising, through letters asking for support. We have an annual garage sale in January that we ask for support, and we get lots of support from Lincoln community especially. But come donate and come by, and just increasing the awareness, I guess, of the possibilities, awareness of the relationship, awareness of, so increasing that awareness in the community, and having people excited either to go down there or to be involved when community delegates are here. That might be the more practical way that most people can participate, is by participating when the delegates are here.
It takes a huge amount of people power to make those things happen, and that's something where it needs a lot of people, and some people to put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, typically they're totally non-English speakers, so we need lots and lots of interpretive services, host families, transporters, etc.
Right.
And money. I mean, and to get everybody here. And it's also a huge thing about getting their visas. Going to the State Department and getting that stuff. So it's like, okay, should we buy the ticket before we get the visa, take the chance, because there's this, okay, buy the ticket, get a good price, so there's always that juggle.
Right. So I want to put in a plug for the phone and the email and the website again. The phone would be 360 area code 943-8642. Email is tstsca@gmail.com. Website www.oly-wa.us/TSTSCA. And so you've already mentioned the cost, and so fundraising is necessary continually. but it's such a worthy cause, and it's so cool to see the money actually work in the communities here and there and do good stuff.
Yeah, and people have, sometimes just want to support one project or another. So we have a number of individuals and families in the community who are saying, okay, I'm going to sponsor a scholarship this year, $360 a year for the next 4 years. I'm going to help a student go to school, or helping with the Commodore. So we have some ongoing commitments that we want to maintain, and then we try, when there is a special request coming from the CDC to do this or that, meet this or that need, then we have a special outreach to try to get support for that particular project.
And bearing in mind, so the viewers know that when people are on the delegations, you're paying your own way. But when people come from there to here, if they can't afford it, then we cover costs.
we cover for everybody who comes.
So if somebody wants to learn more about TSTSCA or wants to help in any way, they can contact the phone number 360-943-8642. They can email TSTSCA@gmail.com. They can also visit the website www.oly-wa.us/TSTSCA, and you'll see that in the very fine print on your screen. So I want to thank Maureen Hill. I want to thank Moira Rader Rice. I want to thank Ellie Mansfield and Alex Becker. I want to thank all the folks who've been watching. Governments often fail to make peace and build productive relationships with other countries. We need to push the government so they will do better, but we also need to sometimes just bypass them and do the right stuff ourselves and build friendships directly and build productive relationships with people directly and restore a human community across national borders. And I'm very, very appreciative of the Thurston Santo Tomás Sister County Association that has been doing this kind of grassroots organizing and relationship building for more than 2 decades. And I appreciate the many years of work that Maureen Hill and Jean Eberhardt and Grace Cox and Barbara Kite and others, so many others, have been doing for so long. And they always need new volunteers and new financial support. For information, you can contact TSTSCA at 360-943-8642 or tstsca@gmail.com. You can get information about a wide variety of additional issues that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolence by contacting the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation at 360-491-9093 or www.olympiafor.org. If you happen to be watching this program on a Thursday night in November 2011, stay tuned because our Big Picture documentary series follows at 10 o'clock, and the documentary this month in November is TSTSCA's history documentary called Know Our People, and then the Spanish is Conocer a Nuestro Pueblo, and it's a great companion to the program that you've just watched. And that was produced locally some years ago, and it covers a lot of the history and early activities and shows a number of people when they were a whole lot younger. But it's great stuff. It's very warm and very human, just like the whole character of the organization. We really are one human family. We all share one planet. We can create a better world, but we all have to work at it. And the world needs what you have to offer. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.